So Napoleon, who is often praised by many, including myself, praised as a military genius, and he was one of the first military leaders to effectively utilize psychological warfare. And this included, most famously, his Bulletins de la Grande Armée, which was sort of an update. It was like a newspaper that was sent out while the campaigns of France were being embarked upon. And that was his media, so he had control of it. And he also controlled mail that his troops sent home and made sure that it painted a positive picture of what was happening downrange. And that is where that opening letter came from. And it was actually excerpts of a letter, but it was confiscated by the military of the Kingdom of Westphalia, which was a vassal state under the First French Empire, which was Napoleon's empire. And the Kingdom of Westphalia, which is a German piece of land, and it provided hundreds of thousands of soldiers for the Napoleonic Wars. And when I say provided soldiers, I should say specifically conscripts, which are basically slave soldiers. You have no choice. You will go and fight. And over time, Westphalia was eventually conquered by the Russians for a period, and then some of the confiscated letters survived and ended up as historical documents that explained what was happening on the ground. And that's where that letter came from, through old Russian files where they had this letter. And again, we make a habit of glorifying Napoleon, and I have done it right here on this podcast, which is actually pretty substandard behavior for me, since I always try to listen to the voice and hear the voice and understand the viewpoint of the foot soldier, the grunt, the frontline troops on the battlefield, because that is where the fighting takes place. Those are the men that execute the plans of the general, and that is where the wars are actually won. And history as a whole has a tendency to forget about them, because generally it's the admirals and the generals that write the memoirs. But in this case, we are going to hear from one of Napoleon's grunts, a guy by the name of Jacob Walter. And he is a German conscript who was fighting for France. So this is a guy who grew up in Germany, but when Germany became part of and became a vassal state, like a subordinate state of the Empire of France, then he ended up fighting for France. But even more, and you're going to find this out quickly, he was fighting for his own survival. So let's go to this book. The book is called The Diary of a Napoleonic Foot Soldier by Jacob Walter.